sale. Yeah. Welcome in, guys, to the Dynasty Bebop Sell show. I'm Ray, coming at you with Marty, the fantasy footboy. We're just goofing around here, making our Arrested Development quotes, and here to bring you some Dynasty Sells.
All right, buddy. Dude, I'm looking forward to this show. I know that, not every player is someone that you're evidently excited to get off your roster, but I do think at the end of the day, you're excited about what you can turn some of these players into. And I know the first player on your list is, a guy that spent some time sitting on your roster waiting for this moment here exactly. So why don't you go ahead and get into it with our first player?
All right. Well, before I get started, comment, like, subscribe. That'll really help us out. All right, I'm going to get it kicked off here with Jordan Love. Yeah, he's somebody, if you've had him, you've been waiting for this very moment. But, now that we're here, we're looking at it, and we're looking at a 24.4-year-old Jordan Love. So he'll be 25 sometime in the season next year. Last year, he played in 4 games, passing 21 times for 195 yards. That's a 66 percent completion percentage. 9.3 yards per attempt, and 1 touchdown. So most of that came in 1 game, and that's all right numbers. It's not anything that's like blowing my mind. He's entering the 4th year of his rookie contract, and the Packers will have until May to decide on the 5th-year option. So in May, if the Packers do not pick up that 5th-year option, his value's immediately going to take a hit there. So he's currently the keep trade cut quarterback 18, and that puts you in some potential trades like, Jordan Love for Will Levis, and a small piece could be something like a tight end like Brock Wright. Right now Chase Brown is valued at the difference between Jordan Love and Will Levis, or a 4th round pick somewhere in there. You might not be able to, somebody might see what you're doing if you try to trade Jordan Love for Will Levis straight up. So you might have to make it part of a bigger package deal where you're doing a positional switch with some wide receivers or something, something you might be able to throw onto a bigger deal. He's similarly valued to Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and Kenny Pickett. And, if the owner of any of those guys is interested in Love and I can get onto any of those, I feel like they're all safer assets, and you can pick up a little piece along the way too. If you can't get any of those done, consider Desmond Ridder and a 24 second-round pick. I think that's a smart move because looking at it, Ridder might actually be more secure than Love at this point, just with his contract status. If they get to the point where they have to pay Love and he's not really performing, are we really going to see them sign him to like a contract that's going to make him secure? And then the last option I'm seeing is he's worth around pick 110 on keep trade cut. So if we look at that, honestly, I would take Hendon Hooker over him if we see Hendon Hooker get, early 2nd round draft capital, late 1st, and you could be getting him with that 110 or so. So, those are all options to consider.
Yeah. I think Jordan Love is kind of a tough sell right now. Just because, there's been a lot of people holding on to him, and the people that were holding on to them kind of want to see what they had. The people who didn't have a hold of them don't evidently want to buy in at a, honestly, that late 1st price isn't terrible for, a player that is a starting quarterback, but still not somebody I want to invest in personally. So I would be curious to see what kind of trades people are getting done with Jordan Love. So, if you're getting some Jordan Love's buys or sells, follow us on Twitter. Let us know. Post the trades. I'd love to review some of the deals that are getting done with him, and the hype that's starting to build up with the Rodgers departure that we all saw coming eventually. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna get into my first guy here. This is a player that kind of breaks my heart a little bit to have on my list, because he was one of my favorite players last year as a prospect. But I think sometimes values just get too high, and a player that's receiving the upgrade from the Rodgers departure actually is Garrett Wilson of the Jets. So this is, one of those young wide receivers that everyone right now in Dynasty is coveting. They're valuing them as multiple first round picks. Once again, this is a player that, I don't hate players. I hate ADPs, and this is a player that's now beyond my ADP reach in startups. And if I have him on my rosters, I'm probably looking to move off of him, in two different ways. You could find the Garrett Wilson owner in your league, the Garrett Wilson fans in your league, which should be several, and see what kind of quarterback you can get into. If you can take your quarterback to like a Derek Carr, type like that, and move into that top 9 quarterback. We talked about like the Deshaun Watsons. Might even be worth taking a risk on buying in on a Kyler Murray. You probably could do that with relative ease by adding a player like Garrett Wilson. Joe Burrow is another one. You could add, Garrett Wilson with Kirk Cousins. See if you can get into a Joe Burrow type tier by adding maybe just a little bit more. He's also a player I'm comfortable with if I need to move down, going down to a Chris Olave, a Drake London from the same class, Devontae Smith, that are all valued very similar in a fairly close tier. Take anything on top of one of those players. If you can get into a second, that's great. You can get late first, anything in 2024. If they want to start moving picks in 2025, I hate to go that far out, but let's be honest, those picks are only going to be a year away in a month. So that draft class is coming quicker than you think. Just like last year when we were starting to move those 2024 picks at this moment, already starting to look like a good investment. If you want to get the better picks, you can move down a whole nother tier to a Brandon Ayuk, Jahan Dotson. We talked earlier this week in our buy video with Chris Godwin, and you could probably get a first on top of any of those players, if not even a first and a second, or a first and another player that you're interested in. I love you, boy. I'm sorry, buddy. Don't look at me like that, but you gotta go.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. He's right now at wide receiver 5. The highest I could see him going, because he's not going to move ahead of Chase and he's not going to move ahead of Jefferson. So the highest he could go is wide receiver 3. And, it's more likely that like these guys take a hit to their value every year, because succeeding in the NFL is hard. It's like the odds are stacked against you every single time you try. Mm-hmm. And so, looking at like the value could only marginally move up from here, and
they're hard margins to move at this point too. And I know, CeeDee Lamb took a little hit at the beginning of the year, but he never should have. The talent's always been there with CeeDee Lamb. He's in the right offense. I don't see a world of him moving out of the wide receiver 3 position right now. I still love a lot of other wide receivers in that same zone. They're probably going to get you similar results. I do like that he is more or less considered the alpha on his offense, because there is a tier of wide receivers in the middle zone of receiver 5 through 12, where you are looking at some Jalen Waddle, some T. Higgins, and Devontae Smith that are considered wide receiver 2s in their offense. But, but once again, that's the appeal. That's why you're able to get a nice haul package out of a player like Garrett Wilson right now.
Right. Awesome. All right, I got another receiver that you can get a haul for too right now. I've got Jameson Williams on here, 22 years old, the speedster, Alabama. He's coming off of an injury, so he should be fully healthy this year because we saw him get into the mix, at the end of the year last year and into the they went to the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah. No, they just missed.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we saw him getting involved at the end. But I think this is a player where we're gonna see that his NFL value is much higher than his fantasy value. And so right now, I think we're in a good sell window because everybody's valuing him really high with the draft capital that he got. But he hasn't had an opportunity to prove that he's not going to be a fantasy stud yet. So I think it's a good sell window right now. They've got a number of weapons in Detroit, and they spread the ball out a lot. And they added another one with Montgomery. I don't think they're going to stop trying to add talent in the draft. And I can see them getting, another young tight end in this rich class. And so his game is predicated on big gains, and that's not something that they're going to be taking 10 shots on every game. He's going to be in the 4 to 7 targets area where you've got Amon-Ra just soaking up most of the short yard passing plays. And if they get another tight end that they really like, there's more targets just gone. So Detroit, I kind of see it similar to Buffalo in some ways. I see Jameson Williams as kind of their Gabe Davis, and how much did we see that guy fall over the past year? Everybody was super high on him. They're he's going to be a touchdown monster. And then when it doesn't happen, when they start spreading the ball out and you realize that, yeah, you're going to get a couple games where this guy gets multiple touchdowns and 150 yards, but you can't predict it. And it's, the floor is going to be low with this guy. So yeah, right now, he's currently the keep trade cut wide receiver 17. He's ahead of guys like George Pickens, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, and Jahan Dotson. And I know all of those guys are either Commanders or Steelers, but I like all of them better than Williams. Potential trades, Pickens in a 4th, if you can get it done. Odds are that the Pickens owner really probably likes Pickens if they're still holding on to him at this point. But, it could be something where if you're working a bigger deal and you need something to just push you over the edge and they have a guy like that and you have Williams doing the swap there. I like Calvin Ridley and 24 third for Williams, and Williams straight up for the 108. I think if you can do that, that's a smash.
Yeah. No, I think I'm pretty happy re-rolling JMO at this point. The 108 is probably about the spot where I'd be looking to settle in. If I can get up to the 107, that's butter. There's still a lot of JMO fans out there. You and I both, neither one were high on JMO coming out last year. Definitely, wasn't willing to take the 1 year hold on investment that he was already coming with. So yeah, I think that, if you drafted JMO and you're holding on to him, I think this is a good time to go ahead and cash out, see what your best offer is. Cause Detroit, we've still got to see it. I know that, we're hyped about Detroit. We like how they're building their offense and how they're building their whole team. But, as their defense gets better too, that kind of starts taking away some of those comeback, garbage time, chuck it, where Amon-Ra is getting, 7 of his targets maybe in the fourth quarter when they're like kind of in comeback mode. They may not be in that situation nearly as much. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with cashing out on that JMO.
Yeah.
All right, so my second player is another one of the guys I really enjoyed as a prospect. Back in the 2021 draft, Ray and I really had a lot of pretty heated debates about these two running backs and who should be going first in that class. I had picked Travis Etienne. I thought that his the three down skill set, and honestly, getting infatuated with the player through college, Clemson, making those playoff runs, I thought Etienne was the perfect NFL running back. He can catch the ball, he's explosive, he's agile, he looked like a very intelligent running back, and a quarterback's best friend. And then he pairs with that said generational quarterback in Jacksonville. He gets the sexy number 1 on his jersey, the visor. It's wheels up, man. He looks great. He looks great out there. And has the foot injury, so obviously holds him back from year 1, which is a saving grace probably of this guy's career, not having to deal with Urban Meyer. Goes into year 2 with Doug Peterson, and has some nice explosive runs. He looks like he's starting to return to form. And then just late in the season, you're just seeing him, not really targeted in the passing game. They bring in Jermichael Hasty from the 49ers. He's starting to get 6-7 target games towards the end of the season. At the end of the year, Travis Etienne, he only averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game. That puts him 23rd. It's a low-end RB2 at the position. And although he's labeled as a pass catcher, 45 targets in the season, 2.6 targets per game. So unless that drastically goes up, which I don't see how that does with adding Calvin Ridley, who's an elite, target hog in his own right, using Calvin Ridley, and I would assume they're probably going to be adding more offensive weapons around Trevor Lawrence, probably in the NFL draft as well. They did re-sign Jermichael Hasty earlier in the year, and they brought in a Dearness Johnston.
Yeah.
So when they brought in Dearness, that seemed kind of confusing, but that might be more of their ETN clone than what we're thinking, which is kind of a grinder. That player that can get it done first 2 to 3 downs. You're bringing in your Jermichael Hasty as your pass catcher. You change of pace back. They might be looking to draft another change of pace back this year. There's a plethora of different style running backs in this class.
Yeah.
So, anyone could get their flavor, and why not get them while they're cheap? They're paying ETN a good amount of money, and they're going to have to pay him a decent amount more to get a 5th-year option or to extend him into a second contract. So
right.
I think at this point, if you can get a first and a second, if you can move into a Najee, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb level player, and get anything on top of that, any type of split backfield running back that's out there in the NFL right now, honestly, if you can get anything from the, 206 down to the 106 to the 205, I'd say that's probably about my cutoff. If I can get anything on top of that, on top of any of those running backs, like I said, Swift, Chubb, Najee, ETN, sorry, buddy, you gone.
Yeah, I'm looking for the 104, 105. For ETN straight up is a trade I really like. I gotta agree with you. If we can get this guy off at a good value, I'm gonna do it. Honestly though, if I can't get the value I want, I'm not afraid to hold him, but I'm doing it with the understanding that you're definitely not getting a first and a second for him at the end of this year. It's probably looking more like a late first, which you can still work with, but hopefully the year of production is worth that drop in value if you're going to hold him.
Yeah, I mean, ETN very well could be set up to smash this year. I do see it's a range of outcomes for him, but I think once again that range of outcomes is what leads people to want to buy. I think he's a guy that gives me those Miles Sanders type vibes where we saw him with some of the passing game usage early on, and then it just started trickling away. And then all of a sudden you start hearing these rumors out of camp that he's scared to catch football, and he's going to have some solid games with the way that he runs. But I also saw some videos last year of kind of what makes him unique is the way he uses his feet and his cuts. He almost has like a duck running style, which makes him really sharp. But that's also why he has these injuries. And I do think that he's a player I want to get off of. I don't like to predict injuries happening, but
you can't ignore a pattern.
Yeah, I don't like that. It makes me nervous. So, all right. Well, who you got as your running back sell?
All right, my running back sell is somebody that I was gobbling up off of the waiver wires a couple of years ago. It's Tony Pollard. He's 25.9, so he's going to be 26 by the time the football season rolls around here. He finished as RB8 in PPR leagues and standard, I think, last year. And he averaged about 15.6 points per game in PPR. So he had 193 attempts for just over 1,000 yards, 1,007, and that's 5.2 yards per carry. And he added on 39 receptions for 371 yards, 12 total touchdowns. I think that he can replicate the 1,000 yards in carries and, close to 400 yards. But I don't know about 12 touchdowns being replicated by him. So I think that might be like a good sell high. Also, he's playing on the franchise tag this year, so we don't really have a lot of certainty about what his future is going to look like after this. So currently on Keep Trade Cut, he's the RB10. And so some trade targets for him might be Najee Harris, who's just behind him. You might be able to get this done because it seems like a lot of people just don't like Najee for some reason. If they have him, and they want to get off, this might be a good option. I like Damian Pierce and a 24 third for Tony Pollard. I feel more secure, even with the option of them adding somebody in Houston. Like I think it's just as likely that they draft another rookie in Dallas as it is that they do it in Houston. And so I feel better about Damian Pierce than Pollard. Also, I like David Montgomery and a 24 second round pick for Pollard. I think that's a great move. Or it's looking like you can get him for like the 109. So if I could get into the 109 for Pollard, I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah. That's another player that I really loved. He, in our first Dynasty startup that we did back in 2018, Tony Pollard was, kind of that, gave me that same vibes I did back then when I took Aaron Jones really late in that draft. And, a player that totally paid off and helped me win a championship in that league. And, Pollard has been kind of that guy I've been holding on to for like 3 years, like waiting for that. He's highly efficient. He's like this guy. He's explosive every time they put him in. Watching, obviously, you have to watch 10 Dallas games a year contractually, especially here in Ohio. For some reason, we only get Dallas games outside of our typical Browns weekend. And honestly, you can see it in the offense. Like every time they put the guy in, the offense looks better. But that's more of a sign of Zeke than it may be a sign of Pollard as well. Yeah. And I do think that Jerry Jones I think the Ronald Jones signing was actually more of a sign that they're going to draft a running back.
Yeah.
And I was on my drive last night. I was thinking about just all the running backs. They're just in Texas as college prospects. You know, you have Devon Achane at Texas A&M. You have Bijan and Roshan both out of Texas. You have Kendre Miller out of TCU. Zach Evans, who was at TCU. So it's like, oh my gosh, like there's Jerry Jones is just like salivating of like all of these like Texas born guys that he can just throw into his offense, you know. And I think that Tony Pollard could be once again a good producer this year. Is why it makes him a very valuable sell, because the value will not be there nearly as much next year.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, here's my last sell. This player is not evidently gonna get you multiple first-round picks or get you into a stud tier wide quarterback or wide receiver position, but I do think this is a player that has some hype right now. Once again, this Jacksonville offense really starting to project to take the next step in 2023. So I got Evan Ingram. He finished as tight end 4 last year, while only averaging 10.4 fantasy points per game. We did see him have some pretty solid boom weeks throughout the end of the regular season and into the playoffs. We really started seeing Trevor Lawrence and that offense and Evan Ingram start taking that next step. And, the year before, we saw Trevor Lawrence targeting his no-name tight ends. Was it Dan Arnold, who was over there as well? We saw him starting to target him 8, 9, 10 times a game. And we started thinking Dan Arnold might be a thing. And then we bring in Evan Ingram, who actually led the NFL last year in slot snaps played for tight ends. You go out there and actually only have 5 weeks out of his 20 weeks, including the playoffs, where he scored or ended up with double-digit targets in the game. So that tells me that Evan Ingram, mainly kind of running out of the slot, playing some decoy roles, allowing them to open up the field for their other explosive playmakers. 5 games out of the year, he might have a matchup that really looks good that week versus a few linebackers that have a hard time covering a guy at his size. Outside of that, I don't see him producing much in 2023. It's a team that's, once again, adding Calvin Ridley, who absorbs a lot of targets on his own. There are, possibilities that they're going to draft a wide receiver, bring in another player. It's just more weapons for Trevor Lawrence. I can see this very deep tight end class, them adding their future tight end 1, which, once again, I don't really evidently want Evan Ingram on my team outside of this Jacksonville offense. So next year, when he's a free agent again, if they have their inline guy that can do both block and run routes, Evan Ingram's gone. He's out the door, and you're begging to get a 3rd-round pick for him again. So I think he's a guy right now you could maybe argue getting two late 2nd-round picks. Maybe a late 2nd and a 3rd. I'm willing to take 2 shots on any tight end in this class, or take a shot on a tight end and a running back, whatever your flavor is. At the end of the 2nd, early 3rd, there's a lot of solid names that are going to be in that range right there. Once again, not a big haul, but he's a player that's, tight ends, they tend to pop up like this. You got your Robert Tunyons, who is that guy that played in Cleveland a few years, Gary Barnidge.
Yeah. Well, even Austin Hooper. People pop into the QB 8 to 12 range every year and never pop their head up again. And I know Evan Ingram has shown that rookie ceiling, which is why you can get a little bit for him. He is, once again, I'm willing to get off these names if I can. Yeah, Evan Ingram to me is like one of the stereotypical like roller coaster ride guys. His value has gone up and down so much that, if you have him rostered, that there's not stability to his value. And like when you look at his contract status, that doesn't give you any confidence that he's going to gain stability. So that's something you need to think about with like, your Evan Ingrams and just other guys who their value is all over the place. Like, get off of them when they're high, and like, because you never know when one of those lows hits, like it's going to take their value out all the way and then it's never going to go back up again. And so, like, if you can get out and get into a more stable asset, like, Pat Fryermuth, like if you had to pay a little bit to get to Pat Fryermuth from Evan Ingram or something like that, like he's a guy where, yeah, he's not really worth much more than where you drafted him, but like he's not going down. He's not going anywhere. His production's not going anywhere. They're just on opposite ends of the spectrum of like stability at the position. And so if I've got a guy that's all over the board, if I can get like something for him at any point, I'm doing it.
Yeah, if I can find the owner that's valuing him as a top 10 dynasty tight end, it's easy. There's a guy out there. Look at your Lawrence owner. Look at people who like to correlate and things like that. You'll find them. Awesome, buddy. Well, great show with you here today. Looking forward to hopefully getting a trade show in this weekend. I know I've got a little bit of moving to do. My parents are moving out of my childhood community up about 3 hours away here in the next month. So I'm gathering the last of my childhood supplies before they hit the yard sale.
Yeah. Yeah, go get that Kobe card.
Oh, I got my Kobe's. I made sure to gather those already.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like, a lot of this information is gonna change. Like, this is a good sell window for a lot of these guys right now before we hit the draft in about a month, and we'll be doing more of these buy and sell videos as things kind of change, and as we see some values go up and down, we're gonna see some interesting buys and sells pop up. So yeah, stay tuned in. If you have trades that you've accomplished involving any of these guys, please send them in to @DynastyBebop on Twitter, and we'll include them in our trade show. We'd love to talk about them.
Yeah, love to talk about them. Well, had fun doing the Bebop with you, brother.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe, follow us, do all the good stuff that makes us happy.
Yeah, we'll be really happy. All right, thanks.